Hello and welcome to the Badger Politic. I'm Scott Stearns.
Yeah, and this is Paul Sickle impersonating Uncle Rick. Just kidding.
Hey, Paul. How's it going?
Good. My seat's been held warm by my uncle the last couple episodes.
So
here we are. Holidays are now over. When the inaugurations are now in the books.
They are. So we officially have a new governor. Tony Evers is the governor of Wisconsin.
I did almost have to pinch myself a little bit watching news reports about the weird olive branch / Trojan horse offered by Robin Vos, but then they went back when the governor's reaction. They showed the governor, and there's our little guy, Tony Evers. Captain Excitement himself, who I frankly made many jokes at his expense on this podcast.
Sure.
But I still felt quite a bit of pride in seeing him inaugurated a week ago.
Assembly Majority Leader Robin Vos has offered what we were debating is a olive branch or a Trojan horse. So what do we think? So this is all about reaching out to the new governor and trying to play nice.
I heard Robin Voss's favorite leader is Helen of Troy, I think.
Oh, okay.
So that's
what that's worth.
That's his. I think
that's the model.
I think he was going to name his daughter Helen after Helen. No, just kidding. I don't know. Robin Voss is definitely not a somebody I would trust.
Well, given what they just did with pulling back the governor's powers and the attorney general's powers, I mean, what level of trust do we think exists right now? I mean, we don't put a whole lot of stock, I think, into Robin Vos and.
No, I don't trust Vos or Steinke or any of those guys. I mean, they said they didn't trust a governor like Evers when they were passing the thing. I certainly, as a voter, not a lawmaker, don't trust these guys. They subverted my will as a voter on more than one election. I voted for attorney general and for governor. Well, I actually didn't really get a vote in the legislature because they've gerrymandered my seats so badly that. Luckily for me, in a way, I live in all completely Democratic districts, but unluckily for me, or anybody that would actually want to vote for a Republican in my district, I don't get a general election vote in the district. And despite the fact that these guys passed laws to help, potentially, there may still be some stuff in there that helps them keep power. So, yeah, I would look at it as a Trojan horse, my friend, because I don't trust anything they say. Plus, why are they being so friendly?
Well,
what do they have to be friendly about? They just took the guy's power away.
No, right. They're trying to save face. Right. They're trying to put on a show, essentially, that they are willing to work with the new governor, blah, blah, blah. But, judge people by their actions, not their words.
They look like bullies, and it's time for them to say, oh, well, we want to get along with our new governor, Evers.
Yeah. So Robin Vos, he's the Speaker of the Assembly, and you have Scott Fitzgerald, who's the Majority Leader in the Senate. They're going to try to, make nice in the public eye, but everybody knows that they're not going to do shit.
Now, the dirty little secret is, this is how untrustworthy Vos is. Vos thought Walker was a dumbass.
Yeah, he did not get on well with Walker at all.
He doesn't like Fitzgerald. None of this is on policy, folks. Don't think Robin's your friend.
This is all personality.
Vos thinks he's the smartest righty in the room.
Yeah.
And if anybody's ever secretly did vote for Evers, it was Vos, because not because of policy, but because Vos is suddenly a household name.
So it's early days in terms of the new administration. They're still kind of getting their feet wet. There'll be more stuff to come in the months ahead. I mean, the big thing will probably be around expanding Medicaid. That's going to be a big issue. What Josh Call does about the lawsuit for the Affordable Care Act and all that, and that's going to be in the local headlines.
And Josh Call said, to his credit, he kind of gave him the business right in his inaugural address, which I found admirable.
Well,
was there some controversy over it?
There was. It was called, by Vos and others as overtly political, and this,
fuck them.
Well, yeah. what incentive, given what these guys just did, to try to pull back the powers of the office? What incentive does Josh Call and Tony Evers and others? What incentive do they have to work with these guys right now?
My dad, who's an attorney, said to me that, paraphrasing another attorney that he went to law school with, who he admired, was, sometimes in law we have to say fuck them.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what Attorney General Josh Kaul was doing.
Yeah, exactly. The alternative is just pretending those laws didn't get passed,
Right.
which obviously would land them in court. I mean,
I think they'll go to court, too.
They'll go to court, but
they may ignore the fact that they are...
They
may
may
try to see how valid they are.
Well,
that might be the thing to do.
It may be in their interest to see like how far they can push the envelope. Now they're going to get struck down on some of it, but maybe they succeed on some points because maybe there's things that they pass that clash with the Constitution in the state.
Right. Well, actually, the people getting struck down with the Republicans pass the laws. I mean,
yeah.
The question is if Kaul or Evers could get away with.
Right. Speaking of dysfunctional legislatures, we have the shutdown. So we're closing in on the record for consecutive days of the federal government being shut down, which was set when the Gingrich Congress opposed Clinton. So it looks like we're gonna surpass that. There's no movement. I mean, the Democrats have absolutely no incentive, no political incentive whatsoever to buckle at this point.
No,
I don't see Pelosi or Schumer giving an inch.
Now, before we go too far down the primrose path, though, I would argue that presidents traditionally win shutdown fights. Even though in the past the Democrats have won this fight, that's just because in the past the people willing to shut down the government have been Republicans driven by their base.
Yeah. This time the shutdown is coming from the president. So it's a little bit different dynamic because in the past it's originated in the Congress, whether it be the House in terms of the Gingrich Congress back in the 90s, or a few years ago with Ted Cruz and the ACA in the Senate. So this is kind of uncharted waters, I guess.
So who's getting hurt by this?
Well, I mean, obviously, who's getting hurt in the real world are federal workers who are currently furloughed or they're working without pay.
Right.
We're a few weeks in, and paydays. We're coming in on Friday, and these people are not going to get paid for even though they're working. I mean, TSA workers are calling in sick.
This is where Trump has leverage. Okay, is that he can say we're shutting down the government and nobody even feels pain. Because right now, like as a member of the public, I don't see it. You don't feel it every minute.
Right, but this is a few weeks in. I mean, we're talking about real world impact, and there's the labor impact to people that actually work for the federal government, that work for agencies. But in terms of on the consumer end of federal services.
But now Trump's saying he's going to give you your tax returns on time, so don't worry.
But what I'm saying is that there are impacts in terms of the benefits of the federal government outside of the essential services, outside of like getting your Social Security check, getting your Medicare benefits, stuff like that. There's FDA food inspections. There's things that can have an impact if they go on for a long time. Like we could have a situation where like tainted meat or something like that becomes an issue because the FDA inspectors weren't on the job at the time.
The question,
this could be a real issue.
I'm not trying to say it doesn't. These are interrogative questions here, not rhetorical questions. It's like I'm serious. Like, why is it that A, it doesn't feel like a full shutdown, and B, like, okay, why didn't the VA center just like put all their patients out on the street? So I guess there was a bit of a rhetorical question.
Yes,
is that. I think Trump, because of the way this is structured, actually has more leverage than
because it doesn't hurt as bad as it could if these weren't considered essential services.
Not only that, but it also feeds a larger narrative on the right, which is that government is wasteful. You pay all these taxes, and then the only people impacted are 855,000, which is less than 1% of the entire labor force.
Yeah.
It's like going on a 0.5% of the labor force. I mean, it's a small fraction. Meanwhile, the VA hospital is open. NASA's still getting pictures from Mars. Nobody's died of listeria yet that we know of. And all we're asking to pay your bureaucratic government people, we're going to give you your tax returns, right? The airplanes are still flying too. All we're asking, this is their argument, is for you to build us a big old wall. I mean, I see that the wall is wasteful and it's wrong. But my question is, how do we counter this? Because I think in a way it's helping him. There's two arguments. I want a wall and big federal government's wasteful.
So we have the real world impact in terms of kind of the consumers of government, the people that work for the government. We have that. But then in terms of the political damage, the political fallout.
Right.
what does it look like right now? Because it looks like Trump's kind of owning this thing, and it's not helping his numbers.
It isn't. And I wonder can we talk about what else is going to actually happen? Like, other than a listeria outbreak, because there isn't. Like, at some point, the government doesn't pay its bills, and shit actually stops working.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe
everybody gets their tax returns.
That has a trickle-down effect, I guess you could say, in terms of the markets and everything else. And so,
right. Do contractors refuse?
Absolutely. Contractors probably just won't show up because they're like, well, I have no faith that this job is going to...
My fiance, she told me, she said, one of the things is we get a better deal because we pay our bills on time as a government. Like our bonding and all that,
right?
At a lower rate.
Yep.
So that'll go up. So, because we're going to blow through a bunch of payments.
Yeah.
So our costs of bonding and contracting is going to go up, and it's going to add billions of dollars to the deficit, which is going to curtail services and or raise taxes in out years. So it's a deficit bomb. It is that for sure. So I guess we all get hurt by it.
Yes.
The question is, how do we make that an imperative concern of Americans?
Wow.
And the networks even call it a partial shutdown.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Including the liberal ones, you know.
Of course. Well, I mean, it's accurate, right? I mean, based on like how the federal government currently defines essential services, it is a partial government shutdown. I think that's an accurate term. I don't think that's fake at all.
By the way, I don't have any solutions. I read some. The only thing I read that was of interest was like weeks ago, which was that if the Dems could get DACA and amnesty for everybody who's in the country, it might be worth chilling out for the wall.
I don't think they're even going to do that. If the Democrats were being harmed politically right now, they may have an incentive to deal. But right now, Trump owns this thing.
He owns it, but I'm just wondering how costly it is to him. Right now is
the thing is
at some point he's talking about what's going on for a long time. I still haven't identified anything that really gives him a political cost.
This whole scenario is so predictable, and it's so amateur, and it's so textbook.
So what's the end game then?
The end game is he's going to declare a national emergency. He's going to use national emergency funds to start funding the wall, and that will give him an excuse to reopen the federal government. And then he takes the Senate off the hook so that McConnell doesn't have to put the onus on his body.
Is that the best solution?
It's not the best solution, but it's the most likely scenario.
Is that the best solution for the Dems? Should the Dems instead actually try to get a real deal on immigration reform in exchange for funding the wall?
The best deal for the Dems is to stand tall right now. Is to just
if I could get a humane solution for everybody who's in the U.S., and especially like the DACA thing, then it might make me say, yeah, this is a waste of money, but whatever.
I just don't even think it's in the cards.
Okay.
To be honest.
I may sound like a sellout, by the way, but I'm very concerned about friends of mine who are concerned about deportation.
But I just
I'm
don't
concerned
think
about people in our communities who
Trump's going to. They've already teased it over the last few weeks, and so he's going to use emergency funds to build some stuff in Southern California or Southern
One thing
Texas,
I'm worried about,
and then get this thing done, and then he can reopen the federal government and say, like, I'm going to use my powers as the president, and I'm a fucking sorcerer.
We were worried about, and I've talked about this, maybe not on the podcast, but the Emergency Powers Act, and like his ability to actually use it to like suspend, to avoid transitioning if he were to lose in 2020. Which I mean, in theory, but if he uses it now, I think it makes it even harder for him to play that card.
Maybe
when he's in political trouble.
Well,
because that's a doomsday. There was a good article about it late last year, right after the elections, or right around the elections, about him potentially. It's on Morning Joe. I like Morning Joe. It's a guilty pleasure of mine, I'll admit. I don't know what I think of Scarborough, but it's they were talking about like what was the worst thing that could happen if he invoked it. But if he's already invoking it for something so dumb as in this wall policy, it's just bad policy.
It is.
Regardless of how racist it is, which is obviously racist.
We know it's ridiculous, but I think this is the most likely outcome.
Silly. Yeah.
It's the most likely outcome because it means that nobody has to compromise.
Well, in a way, I'd like it if he played that card. Let him play that card. Let's get it off the...
Right.
Let's make it obvious that they're only using this.
So
that would make it the Emergency Powers Act much more carefully considered, I think, in the future.
So next podcast we'll probably know more in terms of where this thing goes, but that's kind of where I see things going. Right. There's other stuff that was breaking today. Michael Cohen, Trump's former attorney, agreed to testify before the House Oversight Committee on February 7th. So that's going to be a big day. I would expect that the networks are probably going to carry that. That's going to be a huge news day.
And on our next podcast, we can talk about maybe the I word.
Indictment versus impeachment.
Which I word do you want, or which I word do you believe in? Do you believe in any of them?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of discussed it before the show, but impeachment. Impeachment. You have to keep in mind is a political act, and the fear I have, based on current information, is that if the Democrats are going to go down the road to impeachment, it's kind of I see it kind of playing out how the recall did against Walker in Wisconsin. It makes enough people uncomfortable that they're not going to support impeachment. But obviously, there's other.
Walker though was able to hide behind the shroud of state secrecy in state media, just not being as aggressive as national and international media.
There's probably more information forthcoming.
There's more sunlight on Trump.
We have all the stuff going on right now. We also have the Mueller report that's going to be coming in the next couple months. So there's going to be a lot more information, which could completely change up the whole dynamic.
So I've been skeptical of all the investigations that Trump the entire time, and I thought that mostly they tend to distract from, not to say the real issues, but issues of immediate importance.
Well, I don't know.
People like healthcare or whatever.
Yes,
and issues that actually play to the Democrats' advantage, just more populist economics.
No, true.
And really, even openly embracing a multicultural society.
The thing about the Mueller investigation is, I've always been supportive of it, but I'm not going to track it along its entire course because there are all these other issues going on. There's debates about how we should approach healthcare policies. There's debates about how we should approach immigration. There are all these other things that are happening that we need to focus on, and we don't know. We don't know what's going on with the Mueller investigation until we have the report. So why?
So that's indictment.
Why consume the indictment?
Well, you said impeachment is a political exercise, and Trump has proven himself unfit to be president. Not just I think on a partisan basis, but on an actual basis, on a more bipartisan sort of basis. The wall being one example of many. His handling with Russia, his handling with the Saudi death, saying an American ambassador could be turned over to Russian authorities. My point is that he's clearly unfit, and I don't think this is a view that's unique to me or just even Democrats. At some point, can you get 20 Republicans in the Senate to vote to sustain it?
No.
Or, not at this point. I'll give you that. Because his approval rating is still 41% nationally.
You're dreaming if you think it's going to change.
Dreaming that his approval rating is going to change? Or
no, that you're dreaming if you think that you're going to get 20 more Republicans in the Senate to vote to convict if the House voted to impeach. It'd have to be a pretty...
I don't think the House goes...
The Mueller report would have to be so much more severe than we even think.
I mean, don't be surprised with this administration. I don't think the House goes that way unless they think the Senate could. I'm not saying... I'm not going to sit here and predict it. I'm just going to say I would keep an eye on it because I think there might be a threshold at which... Because here's the thing you have to remember. Okay, so if you're like a Ron Johnson, and obviously you don't do it when
you're up in 2022, and he's not running again.
Right. He's not running again, which means that he has nothing to fear from the center. So Trump's probably just a slight bit ahead of his national average in Wisconsin because Wisconsin went for him. So he's probably at 42% in Wisconsin. He's 41%. So now he wouldn't do it. What if it dropped to 37% in Wisconsin and 35% nationally? Really kind of hit rock bottom for a modern president.
Well, I guess
does he change his tune?
You have to think about, I think, what the floor is. I mean, right now, you look at his approval rating amongst Republicans, and it's huge. It's like it's in the 90% range.
I know, but the Republicans seem to be getting smaller because his approval rating is still going down, which means the
population of Republicans that are responding to these
there
polls
used to be right.
Yeah.
There used to be people that were on the right that wouldn't say they were Republicans because they were embarrassed by its centrism. Now it's people in the center that are embarrassed by the Republicans because of the right. I mean, and we saw that with like suburban voters and all that. So the question I have is, does there reach a point when a Ron Johnson says, "Hey, you know what? I don't like this guy," and here's part of my calculus is, Johnson doesn't have to worry about the Republican base because he's not running for re-election. So he doesn't have to worry about the Democrats in the center, but he also doesn't have to worry about the right beating him in a primary. The second thing, he gets his Pence. He gets his buddy who comes
in weak and tied to this administration. He's the Gerald Ford.
He's buddies with Mike Pence. He's buddies with those types of people. I mean, I'm just saying.
Democrats need to be focused on the next election and not so much on impeachment.
Okay,
So in terms of the shutdown, we'll know more a week from now. Predictions for the shutdown. The shutdown, I just think it's going to be emergency powers, and then federal government goes back to work. That's what's going to happen.
Let me just start from the end and work back to the current thing. What's your gut feeling right now in early 2019 about the possibility that a Republican gets reelected, either Trump or Pence or whoever, in 2020?
I think it's looking pretty piss poor for them right now.
So, what are the chances the Democrat wins the White House?
I think it's probably 60+%, 60 to 70%.
I was going to say 70, 75.
Yeah, there are so many more states in play right now, and I mean, you look at Arizona.
I would say 60% actually is really low. I would say I would
say Wisconsin is back. All the states that kind of made Trump happen are back in play. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and then you add into the mix. You add in Arizona. You add in some of these other peripheral states, and those are not safe zones for Trump.
In the interest of keeping us accountable to 2016, when you said 60% chance the Democrats win, on election eve, most forecasters gave the Democrats last time a 90% chance of winning. Yeah. So say it actually sounds like the Republicans' chances have improved. According to your prediction.
Well,
do you want to revisit that?
Everything has been upended.
Okay, all right.
Those old formulas no longer apply, my friend.
Nate Silver and them said it was only a 70%, 65, 70%. I'll go 70%. More closer to home. Democrats, or progressives, need to win 2 Supreme Court seats in Wisconsin.
Well, we do have
fight back on the
in the podcast ahead. We will definitely spend some time discussing the Supreme Court race because in April we have an open seat because Shirley Abrahamson is retiring, and we have Lisa Neubauer who is looking to replace her.
All the stuff from the lame duck that undermined Evers' authority will be basically up for grabs on the state Supreme Court, including probably redistricting.
Yeah, so Lisa Neubauer is going to be up against Brian Hagedorn, who is the Republican or conservative nominee, and
who is Walker's actual legal counsel.
Yeah, so we know where he's coming from.
I think during the John Doe.
So there's going to be a lot in the weeks ahead to talk about around that. That's really the kind of the next big thing. If you're thinking about the next big thing to focus on, there's obviously a lot of things going on coming into the new year. But in terms of Wisconsin politics, that's kind of where the laser focus is going to have to be in the weeks and months ahead.
So Neubauer, which is our candidate. Basically, she had an advantage in the fundraising. You give her an advantage to win.
Yes, I think she's raised about twice as much as Hagedorn. Some of that is in her own money, but yeah, it's looking good.
I give her a 55% chance of winning. I think Hagedorn's definitely in the game. I think the actual vote count will be really close. It'll be similar more to the governor's race than it was to the Baldwin race or the Dallet race before.
Yeah.
Like, I would hope we'd run away with it, but I don't think we will. I think it's going to be a lot closer.
It'll be closer because I think there's going to be conservatives
Right.
that come out now. They're going to have their own little mini resistance against.
Right.
Against
You know what? We're on the record. I hope the predictions make it in.
yeah,
All right. With that,
more to come, folks.
forward.
Forward.